every race and every series so far this year, and then you pay it off at Kansas with a win. Dude, if somebody put that in a movie, they'd say, no way, that couldn't happen. But how did you get through it?
Well, that's why I'm not in the movie making business. I'm in the race car business. Yeah, it was a dream come true. Everybody at East Motorsports, everybody works hard in the truck series and all these NASCAR series. That's why you saw me jumping around so much on top of the roof and on top of the deck lid and burning out. Was so dang excited. It's just so hard to win in NASCAR, and we did it here with the 45 truck.
Mile and a half last week, mile and a half this week, but apples and oranges completely, right? How will this be different?
Yeah, I mean, they're all challenging. Truck series is so hard because you practice so different than you race, and even though it's cool right now, the track is green, nobody's been on it, so by the time we run the race tonight, all the all-star practice and stuff will have ran. So we'll see what the VHT does. They've sprayed it a little lower than I think in years past, and you never know how they apply it. It's kind of different each time, and they're actively learning as they go. So whoever can hit that right. Last year I think Kyle was really the only one that could run the top, and we'll just see if we can. Obviously he's probably the biggest competition, and we'll see if any of us little guys can beat him.
About to go out on a completely green track, but with the VHT, as you mentioned, then there'll be another practice. Then the Cup cars will get out there and practice. By the time you get to qualifying, is that going to be a nail-biter for everybody to go wide open in that? Yeah,
it will be. Yeah, I haven't qualified here in a truck and had any success ever, so I never felt like I did a good job. So, I'm going to hop up on the roof here, watch these guys, but I'll try to hold it wide open and qualify.
There you go. Big smile for Ross Chastain, and understandably so. Last week's winner at Kansas, about ready to get busy here in the truck garage at Charlotte.
All right, Woody, thank you. He mentioned that Ross has run every NASCAR National Series race this year, every Cup race, every Xfinity race, every Gander truck race. He now holds the all-time record, 29 consecutive National Series starts to begin a season. He's the only driver to finish in the top 10 of every truck race this year. He'll be making his fourth career Charlotte start tonight for 4 different race teams along the way.
Journeyman driver.
It's never easy, is it?
But a good journeyman driver, that is for sure. One of the stories we're going to talk about here today as these trucks practice and then into tonight's race is the return of Kyle Busch. Kyle has had an amazing season this year, and you'll know that the NASCAR rules, as we've altered them as far as participation in these events, Kyle, as a Cup Series driver, is allowed to run 5 truck races. He's ran 4. He's won 4. Number 5 is tonight. Hannah Newhouse is down in the garage area in the proximity of Kyle. Hannah, what's the tone like down where you're at?
Well, I think you guys heard a little bit of it there with that interview with Ross Chastain. He said Kyle's back behind the wheel, and it's pretty much us versus him, meaning the field versus Kyle. And a lot of these drivers, you hear about it from the fans that, they got a different taste when Kyle gets back behind the wheel of a truck. But these drivers like racing against Kyle. They always say to be the best, you got to beat the best. And we all have seen Kyle can definitely be the best in these trucks. And I think everyone's going to put their best foot forward. They want to beat Kyle in this last opportunity in the 2019 truck season. So, Ross said it there. He's got this track figured out. He's seen success here. So all of these drivers are going to not only want to get their trucks dialed in, but they want to beat Kyle Busch tonight, guys.
When Kyle Busch walks into the Truck Series garage, Steve, it's almost like if you listen closely, you can hear the theme from Jaws in the background, because these guys, let's make no mistake, to a man, they say, we like racing Kyle Busch. What they don't like is losing to Kyle Busch, because they do it so often. He can break his own Truck Series record for consecutive wins tonight, topping the mark of 5 straight that he set from Homestead back in 2015 all the way through Kentucky the at the following season. He's won his last 5 truck starts, 4 of them this year, and he can sweep the series tonight.
I'll tell you what, it would be impressive to go 5 for 5. I'll tell you, as good as, and we know Kyle is good, we know he's got good equipment, and but to go 5 for 5 would be impressive. And this is a pretty good racetrack for him as we roll along. Practice has just started. Trucks have made it onto the Speedway. 10 trucks have been out there, only completing 1 or 2 laps thus far. Todd Gilliland, the fastest driver in the early going here. Anthony Alfredo. Well, there's Trey Hutchins jumping up there. Jesse Little, Corey Roper. So new in the practice session, young session here as far as laps completed. Only 2 laps completed by the trucks as they're getting used to the racetrack. And Dave, one of the things that we heard Ross talk about is the VHT, or the sticky stuff. It's been applied, and it's actually visible from where we're at here.
No question about it. There is a very clear delineation. The bottom groove has not been touched. It's green. It's as Mother Nature left it the last time we were here. Second groove, all the way up to the outside retaining wall, outside safer barrier, is a good deal darker. There's been a good deal of rubber put down. They've used the tire dragon, and they've used the VHT or the traction compound. I just call it the goop because I can't, everybody seems to understand that, but it's definitely sticky. But looking at the trucks right now, and granted we're only a couple of laps in, nobody seems to be running the goop. They're all down on the bottom.
Yeah, Todd Gilliland, one of the drivers, and watching him work off from turn number 2, he had that truck right down along the white line. We'll see what he does as he gets to turn number 3. He is in a Kyle Busch Motorsports truck, and yeah, he kind of arcs it down in, but you're right. He works the bottom of the speedway and just now actually slides up a little bit into some of that sticky stuff. But we'll see what happens. Todd Gilliland now across the stripe, completing 5 laps here early in this practice session. Todd Gilliland, Ben Rhodes, Cody Rohrbaugh, Sheldon Creed, and Jesse Little, the top 5 early in practice here from Charlotte Motor Speedway. This is the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
Since 1942, Freightliner has been an industry innovator, developing trucks renowned for their dependability and efficiency. Whether your job requires a dump truck, a concrete mixer, or a delivery truck, you can count on Freightliner to maximize your productivity. With a wide range of horsepower and torque rating that meet even the most demanding job conditions, Freightliner trucks are built to build your business. Learn more at Freightliner.com. Freightliner, work smart.
2019 is the Motor Racing Network's 50th year, and things are about to get a lot louder. I'm Woody Kane. The NASCAR season is revving its engine, and MRN's 2 biggest loudspeakers are back when race spotter Joey Meyer and I bring you the latest news, results, and headlines every Monday on MRN Out Loud. Crank it up Mondays on MRN.com, iTunes, or wherever podcasts are heard.
You're listening to NASCAR Gander Outdoors Truck Series practice, only on the Motor Racing Network.
We're about 5 minutes into this 50-minute practice session here, setting the stage for tonight's North Carolina Education Lottery 200 for the NASCAR Gander Outdoors Truck Series. Trucks are making their way on the Speedway, 23 trucks. I think we have 36 trucks entered here this weekend, so about 2/3 of them have made their way out on the racetrack, just kind of exploring the track. And Dave, as we've talked about, watching the drivers, watching the lines, I think that not many drivers have gone up into that second and third groove, but a lot of times these first laps, particularly with young drivers and young racers, are just to check the balance of the truck, go out and run 4 or 5 laps just on the bottom groove where everyone traditionally runs, just to see, make sure nothing's dragging, make sure nothing's skidding the racetrack. And so I think that's what we're seeing, and it's going to be interesting to see who starts to go up there as they start to fine-tune these trucks.
You're exactly right. Three or four laps for a shakedown run. Make sure you're not dragging the nose through the corner, bottoming out on the cross member or anything like that. Just making sure everything is where it needs to be. Then a couple of laps to kind of get a feel and see whether the truck's tight or loose or where it's performing well. Then back to the garage for a couple of adjustments, and we'll start all over again.
Matt Crafton, the veteran, one of the drivers making his way around the Speedway. He's a 2-time winner here at Charlotte, including that career first win was here at Charlotte Motor Speedway as he races down across the stripe. This will be his 4th lap that he's completed, and he's kind of spending a little bit more time up in that stuff, although as he gets to the center point of the corner, he gets those left side tires right down along the double white line. Matt, of course, the veteran driver, former champion in this series, from Tulare, California, 42-year-old, in fact, a 2-time champion, 2013 and 2014 champion, and now he, as have so many before, completed 4 laps, and now he's down on the apron, getting ready to come back in and make some changes.
What we're told about the traction compound, or the goop, is that it isn't activated by sunlight. It isn't activated by warm ambient temperatures. They actually have to get up there into it and run in it. They have to put tires to it to get it heated up and sticky and grippy. So until they venture up into that second, third, or even 4th groove, it's not going to help. And right now, the question is, who wants to go first?
Well, and exactly. And as you tune your trucks, do you want to be part of that science project? And knowing that there's going to be a lot of laps on this racetrack today, because we have these 2 practice sessions, we have a couple of cup practice sessions. So there's going to be drivers go up there It's just not going to be me in this first practice session, seems to be the sentiment along the way. One of the other stories we have here in the Truck Series, nearly a win for Stewart Friesen as he's making his way around the racetrack. And Stewart had all kinds of problems in Kansas, had a miscue on a pit stop, and then ultimately ran out of fuel on the basis of that pit stop that kind of went awry. Stewart's working down into turn number 3 and 4, and Dave, I think 5 or 6 times he's finished in the second spot, 5-time second-place finisher. I think Stewart's sick of being the bridesmaid.
He's been sick of that for quite some time. Since the first time he's been sick of that. But last week really, really was hard to take. And I talked to Stewart this week. He said, listen, he put it all on himself. He said the driver in his little pea brain came to pit road for a 4-tire pit stop. And I was so anxious to go that when they dropped the jack after doing the right side tires, I dumped the clutch and left. And what happened then, in addition to not getting the left side tires, which probably would not have been a deal killer for them at that point because tire wear at Kansas is not a major concern, but what he did was left before they got the tank full of fuel. They were about 3 seconds with that can into the side of the truck short of what they needed. They tried to save fuel, tried to back out of the throttle, caught a caution subsequently, thought they had saved enough to not have to come back to pit road. Hindsight being 20/20, they absolutely should have come back to pit road. They had tires on the ground. They could have thrown them on, probably come back onto the racetrack 8th or 9th, and based on the way they had dominated that race, probably would have had a pretty good chance to win, but it just didn't work out. They ran out of fuel 3 laps from the finish.
Yeah, quite a ways from the finish. That's
a
long way from the finish. So their numbers were certainly not all that close as far as the fuel mileage goes. And I think the frustrating part for a race car driver is that you very rarely get a truck that good. I mean, when you get one of those, and I know covering the sport now for 15 years, 20 years in the sport, 25 years in the sport, you talk to drivers, and twice a year the top drivers get that car. And you know you got to cash in on it. And Stewart Friesen had that truck last week at Kansas and wasn't able to cash in on it. There's no guarantee you're going to get a car that dominant the rest of the year, the rest of your career. So very frustrating one for Stewart. Although I will say, and listening to him talk, I heard the conversation you had with him. He manned up, took responsibility for it, and said he'll race another day.
Those kind of days break your heart, but they also make you mad. They also make you, I mean, that puts a burr under your blanket, to quote the cowboy term. And he will be out here tonight, I guarantee, knowing Stewart Friesen as we do, he will feel like he's got something to say, he's got something to prove, and he's got some atoning to do for giving away that race last weekend.
The one thing when you look at Stewart Friesen, he has such a history in the sport. I mean, his family, his grandfather Stan Friesen, they own Ransomville Speedway in western New York for years. Stewart runs the big block modifieds all the time. He's lost a whole lot more races than he'll ever win. And those type of things, granted, this is the biggest stage.
And he wins a lot, let's be clear.
And he wins a lot, yeah. This is the biggest stage, so there's a little bit more of a magnifying glass on losses here in this series. But he goes to Fonda Speedway and loses on a somewhat regular basis. Now, he wins there a fair amount of time, too. But I think racers can process that a little bit better than some of us mere mortals as far as, okay, put last week on the shelf, come back here to Charlotte and do our best effort, get a truck that good, and see if we can close the deal. So stay tuned. We'll see what happens with Stewart Friesen.
It really is a tough sport on the psyche because in any other professional sport, baseball, football, basketball, hockey, 50% of the teams on any given night win.
Yes.
In our sport, one guy wins and 35 or 40 lose. That's a brutal losing percentage compared to any other sport.
It really is. You can have you take a cup season of 36 races and you have 6 wins and you think, man, that was a great season. Well, you had 30 losses along the way as well. So it is. The numbers certainly don't stack up. We are 11 minutes into this practice session, and Kyle Busch has made his way to the racetrack. He's navigating turns 1 and 2 as he is getting up to speed with his truck. Todd Gilliland is the fastest driver. Ben Rhodes is second fastest. Matt Crafton is third. Cody Rohrball is fourth. Brennan Poole is fifth fastest. Brett Moffitt sixth. Sheldon Creed seventh fastest. Jesse Little is eighth fastest, although he just got bumped down by Anthony Alfredo. So let's see. Little is now ninth, and Tyler Ankrum is 10th fastest.
11th belongs to Johnny Sauter. Tyler Ankrum 12th. Harrison Burton 13th. Trey Hutchins 14th. 15th is Tyler Dipple. Austin Wayne Self is 16th. Stewart Friesen, who we were talking about, is 17th right now. Grant Enfinger 18th. Corey Roper 19th. and Austin Hill 20th.
The screen we're watching is moving as trucks go on, and I'm following along with Dave and watching him, and the numbers are jumbling as we go here. So if you hear us do an awkward pause, it's because the screen is resetting. Gus Dean is 21st, 22nd is Natalie Decker, Angela Rook is 23rd, 24th is Timothy Peters, Spencer Boyd 25th, Josh Balicki 26th, Corbin Forrester, Jordan Anderson, Stephan Parsons 29th, Jennifer Jo Cobb is 30th, Chad Finley is 31st, and Timmy Hill is 32nd.
To the surprise of virtually no one, Kyle Busch's first lap in practice here this morning was a good one. He jumps all the way to the number 3 position, still about 1.5 miles per hour off Todd Gilliland's fast lap of the day, but he's not backing out of the throttle quite yet either.
The boss man's working his way down through turns 1 and 2 now as he rolls onto the backstretch. Todd Gilliland, of course, drives for Kyle Busch, and Hannah Newhouse is down in the garage area. Hannah, there's been a lot of talk about Todd Gilliland and his struggles getting up to speed. I think 31 races he's yet to win for Kyle Busch. However, the good side of that is he's coming off a third-place finish in Kansas, so maybe getting a little bit of a run down there. What's the story you're seeing down there with Todd Gilliland?
Yeah, Todd Gilliland was definitely in the hot seat early on in the season. You know, Kyle had made comments about how he's got to make something happen this year, and the driver, being only 18 years of age, has been put in the hot seat real early. But like you said, coming off that third-place finish, I was standing between his truck and his teammate of Harrison Burton, and Marcus Richmond and that whole KBM team on that number 4 truck were paying a lot of attention to the front-end suspension, specifically the left front. And Todd actually waved me over, and he'd been sitting in the garage for a couple minutes for sure, and goes, "Where am I on the board?" I said, "You're sitting top of the board," and he goes, "Oh man, we are way too tight to be sitting on top of the board right now." So the fact that he feels like his truck is definitely not where he wants it to be at all and is carrying good speed like that is probably a good sign for that Ford truck.
When you drive for Kyle Busch, you never have to wonder where you stand. And Kyle a few weeks ago was very outspoken. Todd Gilliland will make his 33rd career Truck Series start here tonight, driven exclusively for Kyle Busch Motorsports. And Kyle said very clearly, when you drive KBM equipment, you are expected to win. If you cannot win in our trucks, you probably aren't going to win anywhere.
It's a really awkward spot because he's an 18-year-old kid, and Kyle Busch is calling him out on that. The stats are accurate. The numbers are you're expected to win with Kyle Busch, but then you say, man, he's an 18-year-old kid. Well, he's an 18-year-old kid that's trying to become a NASCAR Cup Series champion is what his goal would be. And so it is a tough world. It is a tough road to hoe, but you think about that 18-year-old kid. I felt bad. He went to Talladega a week or two after that, and he won the ARCA race. And so him and his dad, they've got champagne all over themselves. They go in the media room, and there was no questions about the ARCA race. The entire question was, why are you struggling in the trucks? What is Kyle saying? What is he saying? And it's like, it's a tough sport. It's a tough world. And when you factor in he's an 18-year-old kid, I think it's an extra challenge for him. But hopefully that third-place run last week will kind of get things righted around, and we'll see how he does here along the way.
KBM, to say the least, is accustomed to success. Yes. Todd Gilliland, if he can win tonight, looking to become the 11th different driver to win for Kyle Busch Motorsports in the Truck Series. That's a long list, and I don't think that there's an organization in the sport, certainly in the Truck Series, maybe not in the sport, that has given more talented young people opportunities to race and win at the NASCAR National Series level.
It is impressive. The drivers that have come through there and where they're at now, Kyle has certainly provided a platform for a lot of race car drivers and crew members, crew chiefs, crew members to establish themselves and make a wonderful career in the sport of NASCAR racing.
Tight truck and all, Todd Gilliland remains at the top of the leaderboard. Ben Rhodes, Kyle Busch, Matt Crafton, and Cody Rohrbaugh, the top 5. 16 minutes into practice number 1 for the Gander Outdoors Truck Series from Charlotte Motor Speedway. This is the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
Clutch Coffee Bar in Mooresville, North Carolina is redefining the drive-thru coffee game in Race City, USA. The Clutch experience is fast, friendly, and delicious. Quality drinks and unmatched customer service is the name of the game. Clutch Coffee Bar offers signature lattes and mochas, custom flavor-infused energy drinks, smoothies, and more. Over 25 flavors, there's something for everyone. Visit our 2 locations in Mooresville, 356 Williamson Road and 154 West Plaza Drive. Open daily from 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. Power up today with Clutch Coffee Bar.
Here's a special message for those of you who owe the IRS at least $10,000 or more in back taxes. The IRS has special programs in place that could eliminate or reduce your tax debt by thousands of dollars. The IRS is currently accepting reduced settlements and other favorable programs. You may qualify for substantial savings, so get the help you need. Take down the number now for the Federal Tax Management Hotline, 800-242-1706, 800-242-1706.
Johnny Sauter slides off from turn number 4, out along the fence, now down across the double dog leg for the 20th time in his career, but for the first time here at Charlotte Motor Speedway.
You're listening to NASCAR Gander Outdoors Truck Series practice.
Johnny Sauter wins. He picks up the win.
Only on the Motor Racing Network.
Friday morning practice at Charlotte Motor Speedway for the NASCAR Gander Outdoors Truck Series in preparation for tonight's running of the North Carolina Education Lottery 200. You'll hear it live here on the Motor Racing Network. Dave Moody alongside Steve Post, Woody Kane, and Hannah Newhouse down on pit road. We heard Johnny Sauter's most recent Charlotte Motor Speedway success on the rejoin, Steve, and to see Johnny Sauter have success anywhere became kind of commonplace over the years. Not last weekend in Kansas, though. Didn't get off to a great start. Truck wasn't that good. Transmission failure in the early going. Not a Johnny Sauter type of day. 22nd at the drop of the checkered flag.
Yeah, not what you expect from Johnny Sauter or Thor Sport or anybody on that team. And they did struggle all day long. We had the practice coverage and talked about his struggles. The week before that, he was hoisting the monster up at Dover, Miles the Monster Trophy. So he did pick up the win after that. So Johnny Sauter here at Charlotte. He's won here before. And has worked on the truck a little bit. He's been out on the racetrack. Woody Kane is down in the garage area. Woody, what are they working on? What are they looking at down on Johnny's truck?
Well, a little bit of everything. I just chatted with his crew chief, Joe Shear Jr., and they won this race a year ago. Joe said we brought the same truck back that we dominated this thing with a year ago, and it's not working at all. He said there are some fast people out there. We're just not one of them. They're making wholesale changes on Johnny Sauter's machine right now, about to send him back out and get him underway, but kind of like the way you described it last weekend, guys. They started off slowly, then had a problem in the race. They're hoping to avoid that problem in the race part this time around. They did win the race at Dover, so he's punched his ticket for the playoffs if nothing goes absolutely crazy and a bunch of other guys start winning down the stretch. But Johnny Sauter's a past champion. They'll get it figured out. This truck they know is good. They know it's good here. They just haven't hit on what it wants yet. I asked Joe Shear Jr., the crew chief, if the VHT was part of it, and he just kind of shook his head and said, I don't really know. So they're scratching their heads here in the garage near Johnny Sauter's truck at the moment.
Well, Thor Sport Racing has been so good on the mile-and-a-half tracks over the years, Steve. You got a feeling they're going to get it figured out. They've had a phenomenal year. They put all of their trucks, either 4 or 5 per week, in the top 10 3 times this season. They had all 5 in the top 10 at Martinsville, all 4 in the top 10 at Texas, all 4 in the top 10 a couple of weeks ago at Dover. 17 of their 30 career wins as an organization have come on mile-and-a-half racetracks.
This is their wheelhouse, and I suspect they're going to have some good trucks here tonight. So, maybe a little early, and Johnny Sauter may be struggling just a little bit on the get-go, but I expect the Thor Sport team to be contenders here tonight, up there battling it out with Kyle Busch. We're 20 minutes into this, watching Anthony Alfredo now make some laps around the racetrack. Anthony, a 20-year-old racer from Ridgefield, Connecticut, raced Legends cars. It's always fun to come here at Charlotte because a lot of these drivers were racing on the mile-and-a-half track, of course, here, the NASCAR track, but here on the front stretch, connecting the pit road and the front stretch, is a quarter mile where the Tuesday Night Summer Shootout Series has been a mainstay for 25, 27 years, I think it is. And Anthony Alfredo, he's rolled in the gates here a lot of times with a Bandolero car and a Legends car, but now gets a chance to try his hand working on the big track as he's making some laps here on a Friday morning. So always neat talking to these drivers that come back to Charlotte. This is always such a special place for those kids that ran in the Summer Shootout.
Of course, you've been the public address voice of the Summer Shootout Series for a couple of decades plus. I love walking through the truck garage with you because a high percentage of these kids, as you call them, did come up through the Bandoleros and the Legends cars. And I love walking through the garage with you because one after another, they all come up and say, hello, Mr. Post. How are you, Mr. Post? Nice to see you, Mr. Post.
That's our first lesson when they get to this level where they're being interviewed and talked about on MRN. That's our first meeting with my kids that run in the summer shootout is, okay, I appreciate the respect. I appreciate it when you're a little kid at the summer shootout being Mr. Post, but call me whatever you want, Postman, Steve Post, whatever you want to do.
Most of them ignore that, though. It's still Mr. Post.
It's still Mr. Post.
Yeah.
It is really, really. It's been amazing. 22 years been doing it, and the talent I've seen through there has been amazing. Just fun to watch. We're continuing on here with trucks rolling around the racetrack. Natalie Decker out making some laps right now. The young lady racer, 21-year-old from Eagle River, Wisconsin. She's out making some laps. She, as many others, keeping her truck right down on the white line as she rolls off from turn number 2 onto the back straightaway now, and then not really getting up and experimenting with that VHT. She is with David Gilliland's program, the DGR Crosley Racing Team. Another great organization here in the Truck Series, developing a lot of young talent. So she has been working her way around and now down on the apron as she comes to the garage area. Let us go to the garage area as well with Hannah Newhouse.
Yeah, we talked about Todd Gilliland a little bit earlier. His practice was sitting top of the board, still holds that position. Listen to your radio chatter a little bit, though. Sounds like you might have been having some motor issues.
Yeah, I don't really know what was going on right there. I thought I was going to be a lap. I went through 1 and 2, been wrapped right off the bottom, and then just went down the backstretch and it was missing, like kind of just stopped going. So I don't know, we'll get it handled, but it feels really good to be fast unloading and just being right there with them. And this is a weekend that Kyle's not going to win. We're going to beat him, and I hope so at least. So we need to get back out there. These guys are working really hard. Can't thank everyone at Kyle Busch Motorsports enough. They work hard every week, and we've had some bad luck, and I made some mistakes. So we just need another clean weekend here today.
That seems like the goal. Everyone here in this garage wants to beat the boss man, Kyle Busch, and there's been some exponential pressure put on you as well, being one of the drivers in the KBM stall. What is it going to take tonight, though, to beat the boss man?
Man, I don't know. I think just a little bit of momentum from Kansas was really good. Just being able to run up front and restart up there and stuff like that. But at the same time, Kyle makes us look bad when he wins 4 in a row. So we just got to go out there and do our best.
Todd Gilliland out of his truck right now, that KBM team hard at work trying to figure out what that motor issue is, but you guys heard it here. Todd Gilliland is looking to dethrone Kyle Busch tonight and cut that win streak.
Todd Gilliland, I love that kid, man. He's a good racer, and as much as the hard knocks, you feel bad for him. He certainly comes from a racing family. His grandfather, a Winston West Series racer. His dad, David Gilliland, of course, a lot of success. Xfinity Series wins along the way, and a lot of success. So he certainly knows the business, and he has his dad to rely on, who's been up and down and been through the school of hard knocks as well. I'll tell you, I look at Todd Gilliland, and one of the first times I saw him race, and I'll never forget this, one of the really neat experiences with Todd and his dad, the late model race up at Martinsville Speedway, the 200-lap late model race. The way the schedule fell in a rain out here at Charlotte is that they both ran on the same Sunday afternoon. And with our friends at PRN covering the Charlotte race, I decided to go up to Martinsville and just literally sitting in the stands. And somehow through social media, David found out that I was there in the stands and found my number along the way. And all of a sudden I get a text from some stranger, and he said, hey, watch my son. I'm running the race at Charlotte. He was running for Front Row Motorsports. And the thing that I really liked about David is he got a raw deal on a restart. Someone got into him, slid him way up the racetrack, and by the time he got to the third turn, he was back under control. He wasn't flailing the car around or anything else. He went from 2nd to 12th, and he jumped right in line and just started to work on the 11th place racer and the 10th place racer. And David and I talked that night, and I talked about the maturity level of him. Yeah, he's an 18-year-old kid, and he's getting through the hard knocks, but those lessons are well learned, and they'll suit him well as he continues with his NASCAR career.
You and I both talk to a lot of young drivers as they make their way up the ladder and make their way to NASCAR National Series competition. They've all got talent behind the wheels.
Yes.
Nobody gets to this level of the game without being able to wheel a race car or wheel a race truck. The challenge of it is that when you're racing at your own local track or maybe even in regional racing, you've got some guys that are great talents and some guys that are just average talents. When you get here, everybody has talent. Everybody has good equipment. Everybody has what it takes to win. but it's the ones that can handle the mental aspect of the game, the pressure of being out there every week, the pressure of having a sponsor with a lot of money in your program expecting you to run well, expecting you to win, the pressure of being able to handle all the information and all the feedback and all of the technology that comes your way, the physical strapping in and turning the wheel and mashing the gas, it's almost the easiest part compared to everything else that comes with it at this level of the game.
And in talking with these racers, the other thing is at their local track, they won 13 of 15 features, or they won 18 features, or they run 7 in a row. You're not going to do that here. And that getting used to not winning is a challenge. It is such a mental game. I don't know how any of these kids do it, and yet seeing some of them do it is impressive. That is for sure. Continuing on here with practice, 27 minutes into this 50-minute practice session. Let's go back down to the garage with Hannah Newhouse.
We talked about the Legends program here at Charlotte Motors a little bit ago. And one of those drivers who has made his way up through the Legends is now here in the Truck Series, Stephan Parsons. But you've got a really special scheme that you're running this weekend. You've got the number 49 on the car for the UNC 49ers. But talk about the scheme that you guys are running.
Yeah, it's really cool. Unfortunately, the tragedy that happened a couple weeks ago on our last day of class affected everybody in the 49er community. And I'm proud to run this scheme and honor Riley and Ellis and everyone affected by the tragedy. We're having a little bit of an electrical issue right now, and hopefully you can get this thing up to full song and give them a good run.
Now, how cool is it to have been in this garage before as a Legends driver and now be here and be able to climb in a truck?
Oh, it's absolutely surreal. This is something I've dreamt about. I've been really lucky to be able to run some of these tracks that I've run, and to run here at my home track is really special. And hopefully we can, so close to school as well at UNCC. Like I said, hopefully we can give UNCC and everybody a 49er strong run.
Awesome. Well, good luck. That will be one truck to keep your eye on in that scheme. Again, like he said, in remembrance of the unfortunate tragedy that happened at UNCC earlier this year.
Yeah, Hannah, that's such an amazing story here in this community. That's Phil Parsons, 20-year-old from Cornelius. Phil Parsons, a broadcaster with Fox Sports. Phil Sauter and Stephan, another one of those racers. It's a fascinating world we live in, and talking about the UNCC 49ers, the weird timing of life. An hour before the shooting took place, my daughter accepted an offer to go there this fall. So for an hour, we're part of the 49er family. We're celebrating the 49er family, and the next thing you know, we're having all these news flashes and news breaks, and it's just strange how things work out. But really, really neat to see. This community has really rallied around the families of the two gentlemen that lost their lives down there, as the other injured or recovered, and as we go through the legal process. It's been an amazing thing to watch that community over at the University of Charlotte, which is probably about 4 miles from here. The campus has been amazing to watch. It's been amazing to watch as a dad that is now part of the 49ers family. So I really appreciate what Stephan Parsons has, saluting the 49ers and maybe giving a little positive vibes here on a Friday night, so close to the campus. So great stuff from Stephan Parsons down there. 30 minutes into this practice session. Todd Gilliland, Ben Rhodes, Kyle Busch, Joe Nemechek, Matt Crafton, your top 5 from Charlotte Motor Speedway. This is the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
Check out MRN.com for a new podcast series called The Tough Trucks of NASCAR. 25 years and still trucking. We'll take you back to some great races.
Benson to the bottom of the racetrack. This is the race for the lead and the win at Michigan.
And some wild moments.
One truck is in the air. Matt Crafton upside down.
And we'll let you hear the stories behind them.
He was too bullheaded to let me pass him, and I was too bullheaded to let him have it.
Download the show for free on iTunes and at MRN.com.
Winged Nation with Steve Post, Aaron Evernham, and Ashley Stremme. Your destination for all things winged sprint cars. Each Saturday at 8:30 and 11:30 a.m. on MAV TV. Live at noon on wingednation.com and Facebook Live. Join us for in-depth conversations with drivers and personalities that make up the greatest dirt racing on earth. The Winged Nation Preview Podcast each Thursday previews the upcoming weekend. Winged Nation, winged sprint car talk covering dirt tracks all across America.
31 minutes into practice here from Charlotte Motor Speedway Truck Series. Gander Outdoors Truck Series drivers are gearing up for tonight's North Carolina Education Lottery 200. We mentioned 31 minutes in. This practice session slated to go for 50 minutes, so about 18 minutes left in this session, and a lot of activity. The garage area has been very, very busy with trucks in and out, and a lot of adjustments, a lot of changes being made to the trucks. Looking at it, Ben Rhodes probably has the most laps out on the racetrack, 21 laps, so a lot of drivers in single digits still. So the different strategies, different plans as drivers work their way around the racetrack. Matt Crafton, one of the drivers, just making his way around the speedway now. Crafton rolling off turn number 2 onto the back straightaway, and let's go back to the garage area to Woody Kane.
With Kyle Busch, who's made his first run here. Kyle, they've been dragging tires for 10 days and a lot of VHT. How did your Tundra feel out there?
We're fighting grip. Maybe it's within our truck, maybe it's on the track, I don't know, but overall there's a combination there, and so we're working on it, trying to make it better, just get it to where I need it for our being able to drive it first and then be able to pass people after. But overall the truck's got good speed, it's third on the chart, so you just get a balance right and get a feel that I like, and hopefully we'll have a good shot for tonight.
What do you anticipate in terms of how this track will change as it gets rubbered up and it gets hotter today?
Well, I think with the cup cars and all that stuff, with the speeds last year the speeds were so much higher entering the corner that you just slipped right out of it, like you had no grip. This year the speeds will be slower, cars will have more downforce, you might be able to utilize that, and once you be able to utilize that, you can put the rubber into it and get more grip out of it sooner. So I would expect that kind of happens. You won't see it with the truck practice here, it's too early and everything going on and not enough time, but you'll see the truck race tonight. I think you'll be able to move all over.
There you go, guys. Kyle Busch, third on the board right now and trying to get that truck to handle a little bit better.
Kyle Busch, number 3 on the speed charts. And immediately behind him, Posty, Joe Nemechek, number 4 on the speed charts right now. He ran only 2 laps. The second lap was the fast one at over 179.6 miles per hour. How about old front row Joe? A career best Truck Series finish, a second back at Watkins Glen in 1996. Of course, a multi-time winner in both the Xfinity and Cup Series ranks. Best finish this year of a 16th at Daytona. I'll tell you, he needs to go out there one more time, pick up 2 more spots, and we can break out the front row Joe tag for the first time in a while.
Absolutely. It is always great to see Joe at the racetrack. Just one of the really good guys. 55-year-old racer from Lakeland, Florida. You mentioned that 1996, I believe it was, race. He is the 1992 Xfinity Series champion, okay? I mean, Joe's been around forever. 4 Cup wins, 16 Xfinity Series wins, and yeah, he owns his own team. A lot of that was for John Hunter Nemechek, his son raced. John Hunter has found himself a gig, found himself a real job as far as racing goes.
A paying job.
So Joe has the trucks around. He wants to go out and race too. He's still got the juices flowing, and great to see Joe up front. Still can mash the gas pretty well, and 4th fastest right now as we're 34 minutes deep into this practice session.
Joe's his own owner. Joe, some weeks, and I think this might be one of them, is also his own sponsor. Wouldn't surprise me if the second lap that he turned at 179.629 miles per hour might be his final practice lap of this practice. I can imagine Joe climbing out, taking off the helmet and saying, yeah, we're good. See you next practice, if at all.
There you go. Who knows? We'll have to see. Right now, a rare moment of quiet as nobody is on the racetrack. Actually, a couple of trucks are now rolling out down in turns 1 and 2. So very, very quiet on the racetrack. Todd Gilliland is the fastest. Ben Rhodes second fastest. Kyle Busch is third fastest. Joe Nemechek is 4th. Matt Crafton is your 5th fastest driver. Cody Rohrbaugh is 6th fastest. Brennan Poole 7th. Stewart Friesen 8th fastest. Anthony Alfredo 9th. And reigning champ Brett Moffitt is your 10th fastest driver.
Harrison Burton is 11th. 12th belongs to Sheldon Creed. Austin Hill 13th. Johnny Sauter 14th. 15th is Jesse Little. Ross Chastain, who just came back out onto the racetrack, he is 16th currently. 17th belongs to Tyler Ankrum. Trey Hutchins is 18th. 19th, Tyler Dipple. Grant Enfinger, 20th.
Austin Wayne Self is 21st. 22nd is Chad Finley. Corey Roper is 23rd. 24th is Natalie Decker. Gus Dean is 25th. Timothy Peters back in the Truck Series. He is 26th fastest. Corbin Forrester 27th. Angela Rook is 28th. Timmy Hill is 29th. And Spencer Boyd is 30th.
Rounding out the field, Jordan Anderson 31st, 32nd to Josh Palicki, Stephan Parsons 33rd, Jennifer Jo Cobb, and Josh Rayum rounding out the 35 trucks that have taken practice laps so far.
Watching the racers out on the racetrack as they make their laps around the Speedway. Ross Chastain working into turn number 3. Ross has completed 10 laps in this practice session, and he is actually pushing up the racetrack just a little bit. As a matter of fact, the truck jumps way sideways on him coming out of turn number 4, but maybe one of the first laps we've seen of a driver staying up in that dark area that you can see, and we can see it from the racetrack, but there is a lighter groove, a more weathered or a naturally weathered groove on the inside, and then a darker groove on the outside. And actually Ross Chastain, one of the first drivers that we've seen that's it looks like intentionally spending his time up in that VHT.
You know, a lot of people may forget, last week at Kansas, he was running 4th, 5th, 6th, midway in that race, and had a real adventure coming off the top of turn 2. Turned that truck sideways, looked like he was going to drive straight through the infield, managed to save it, a spectacular save in traffic, did not get gathered up by any of the many trucks that were in his neighborhood at the time, and then went on to win the race. So Ross Chastain, not at all surprising that he'd be one of the first to venture up into the goop here in those upper grooves here at Charlotte.
Not a shocker at all as he continues to make laps here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. And from Charlotte Motor Speedway, this is the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
MRN's Classic Races.
Labonte gets crossed up. Labonte goes around. Dale Earnhardt now watches Labonte spun across the line and got the win.
Spanning 50 years of NASCAR racing.
Barney Hall. There's a beautiful afternoon here in Daytona Beach, and the action will be fast and furious.
Legendary voices, legendary races.
Darryl, simply, what happened? I just hope he chokes on that 200,000. That's all I can tell him.
MRN's Classic Races, available on MRN.com, iTunes, and your favorite podcast provider.
But he did touch. No, he knocked the hell out of me.
NASCAR Coast to Coast on MRN.com and Motor Racing Network's Facebook. Join me, Kyle Rickey, and Hannah Newhouse as we talk with the next generation of NASCAR stars and established local and regional racers each Wednesday at 1 Eastern Time. Or subscribe, download, and listen on your favorite podcast provider. NASCAR Coast to Coast. Grassroots NASCAR racing from the Motor Racing Network.
It's All-Star Weekend in Charlotte, and we're live with NASCAR Gander Outdoors Truck Series practice.
Here at Charlotte Motor Speedway, gearing up for tonight's North Carolina Education Lottery 200 for the NASCAR Gander Outdoors Truck Series. We spent a lot of time talking about Kyle Busch and can he do it, and that leads us to a Motor Racing Network poll that we have on our Twitter and on our Facebook, and we'd love to have you participate in it as well. The question: who can stop Kyle Busch in the Truck Series this weekend? Send your thoughts. Use hashtag AskMRN. Of course, it's MRN Radio is our Twitter account. Your options, and this is a poll, if you will. Your options are Brett Moffitt, Johnny Sauter, Grant Enfinger, or the other option is Nobody will stop Kyle Busch. So we'd love to have your opinion. We'd love to have your observation on that. You can go along to our Twitter account right now and log your vote. Now, offer up your comments as well. And if there's someone we didn't list, mention that one as well. And we love having the back-and-forth conversation on our Twitter feed. And, again, our Twitter is MRN Radio, at MRN Radio. And whenever you reply to us, use the hashtag AskMRN.
About 10 minutes remaining in this opening practice session of the day for the NASCAR Gander Outdoors Truck Series. Todd Gilliland remains top of the heap at 181.111 miles per hour. Second place man right now, and a youngster, Steve Post, that's coming on strong here in the Gander Outdoors Truck Series of late. Young Ben Rhodes, the 21-year-old out of Louisville, Kentucky, driving the Carolina Nut Company Ford for Thor Sport Racing, making his 81st career Truck Series start here this weekend at Charlotte. Coming off a very solid second-place finish at Kansas, his 4th consecutive top 10 finish. This is a young man that a lot of folks see as just that close to capturing his 3rd career Truck Series win.
He's been very solid, that is for sure. He's been in the mix of all these races as we've called the action across the races of Motor Racing Network. We have talked to him a lot and talked about him a lot, and I believe he is down in the garage area alongside of our Woody Kane. Woody?
Yeah, he's they're putting the window net up right now, about to send him back out for one last run here. But had a good chance to talk with Ben earlier in the week, and he was saying they feel like they've had speed at a lot of places, particularly on the 1.5-mile tracks, and they expect Charlotte to be another good one for him. As you guys mentioned, he's run very well so far here in the early going, but they just haven't been able to get over the hump and pay it off. Something always seems to jump up and bite them. They're right there. They feel like with this team that they can, with the ThorSport team that they've got, they can really make some moves and make some things happen. But right now they feel pretty good about the truck. Some minor adjustments here when they came back in, primarily air pressure. And now Ben Rhodes, as we speak, is backing out of his garage stall, about to take the Carolina Nut Company Ford back out onto the track and see if he can find even more speed.
We talked earlier about ThorSport Racing and their success at 1.5-mile tracks, and particularly here at Charlotte. Ben Rhodes really likes this racetrack as well. 3 career Truck Series starts here at Charlotte Motor Speedway in his career. Top 10 finishes in the last 2, including a 5th-place finish in this event last year.
Yeah, he's coming off a runner-up finish in Kansas, another 1.5-mile track. Both of his wins have come at 1.5-mile racetrack, so he certainly is good at this intermediate style of racetrack. Watching Harrison Burton making laps here in the Safe Life Toyota as he rolls onto the back straightaway now. Another one of the Kyle Busch Motorsports truck. Harrison, see what he does as he gets into turn number 3, and he gets right down into the left side tires down onto the double white line. So Harrison Burton not going up into the goop or the sticky stuff or the VHT or whatever we're calling it along the way, but Harrison Burton logging some laps here now. Looking at where he's at, he's 11th fastest. He's got a lot of laps, and in fact more laps. Maybe Sheldon Creed is the only one with more laps. That was his 23rd lap. So young Mr. Burton getting a lot of seat time here in this first practice. And Dave, a lot of times that's what these young racers need as much as anything else.
Yeah. Repetition.
Yeah.
Repetition will help you get where you need to go when you're a young driver like Harrison Burton. Every lap, and you and I both know this, being completed under the watchful eye of Dad,
yes,
who stopped in here before practice started to say good morning and kind of just catch up on everything going on. Jeff Burton, I think, does a masterful job of towing the line between father and mentor and critic and chief bolstering officer.
Yes.
He does a little bit of all of that, and he does it all at the right time in the right place.
Yes, I love that because I agree. He has all of those roles. And then Mom, Kim Burton, she's the number one fan. She's just she is the number one fan. And actually, as you say that, looking down about 3 booths down from us is Jeff with a headset watching his son roll through turn number 2 right now onto the back straightaway again, has the headset on and keeping an eye on the boy out there making laps.
Kim Burton, I like every once in a while, I just like watching her sit on top of the pit box, particularly when Harrison is running well. That girl is wound up. She would make Coffee nervous. I mean, she is an involved mama. She's bouncing and she's twitching and she's just checking it all out at once.
Every lap screaming and pulling the truck by. Every lap she's jumping up and down. I know covering pit road a lot of these truck races. I remember Martinsville last year. We had that one delayed until Monday. And I am telling you, it was a 200 or 250 lap race. And she had 200 times where she was just pulling him through the corner, screaming and jumping up and down. So it is fun to watch. And good to see young Harrison Burton, another one of the fine young talent we have in the sport, continuing to make laps here today at Charlotte.
Everybody needs a mama as supportive as Kim
Yes.
Burton and a dad as supportive as Jeff. They've got it covered.
For sure. They truly do. Harrison Burton rolling around the Speedway now. Of course, his dad, familiar with this racetrack, a 3-time winner here at Charlotte. So may have to lean on the old man for tips to get around this place as we continue on. We are at 45 minutes, so about 5 minutes left in this practice session. And right now, probably looking at trucks making their final adjustment in this session, although we have about a 30 to 35-minute downtime, and we're back with another 50-minute practice session. So a little breather, a little debrief time, and we'll be right back with another practice practice session.
Yes, back on the air at 10:35 Eastern Time this morning. 10:35 to 11:25 will be the final Gander Outdoors Truck Series practice of the morning here at Charlotte. It's going to be a busy day between Truck Series practice and Monster Energy Cup Series practice, Monster Energy qualifying, Truck Series racing. Just come on out to the racetrack today, grab a seat, and don't move for the next 12 hours.
You will see it all, that is for sure. We just mentioned this a bit ago. We have a poll going on here. Who could stop Kyle Busch in the Truck Series this weekend? And you can certainly participate this on the Twitter poll. 54% are saying nobody can stop him. We have 26% saying Johnny Sauter is the man to stop him. 14% said Brett Moffitt is the guy, and 6% saying it's Grant Enfinger. So play along with us at MRN Radio. Use the hashtag AskMRN if you want to do it. And hey, while you're doing it, retweet it to all your friends. And if you care to offer up an observation or comment, we would love to read that as well. As we're closer and closer to the end of this practice session, Stewart Friesen, one of the drivers out on the Speedway now, making laps around the racetrack here with about 3.5 minutes left in this practice session.
It's not like Kyle Busch can't be beaten in the Truck Series. He just hasn't been beaten lately. He's won 55 times in truck competition in 150 starts. So he's lost twice as many as he's won, but still, that's an amazing win percentage.
Amazing indeed. Let's go back down to the garage area. Hannah Newhouse.
Yeah, when all the trucks are out on the racetrack at once, they all seem to come back in the garage at once. But one of the faces down here is usually behind the wheel of something. And when he's not, he's here helping. Myatt Snyder, we've caught up with him here. You're running a partial truck schedule this year, but you found yourself behind the wheel of something a little bit interesting and actually international, running full-time in the NASCAR Euro Series. How did that come about, and how's it been so far with 2 race weekends under your belt?
Well, I just needed to stay behind the wheel this year since I wasn't racing full-time trucks, and the NASCAR wheel in Euro Series is a pretty lucrative, it's a very interesting opportunity to have. So it's a lot of fun. You know, you get to go to all these international destinations, so it's a lot of fun. So I've been enjoying it. I've been going to places like Valencia and now Franciacorta, and we'll be going to Brands Hatch, which is a pretty famous circuit, in a few weeks. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
It's an off weekend for you for the Euro Series. You were in Spain last weekend, but when you're here with ThorSport, you're hands-on, you have a radio in your ear. How much does that help you, even though you're not behind the wheel, to be so hands-on with the team and learning from someone like Johnny Sauter?
I didn't quite catch that, sorry.
When you're not behind the wheel of the race car, you are here hanging out with the ThorSport team and listening and paying attention. How important is that to learn from someone like Johnny Sauter in ThorSport?
Yeah, it's very important. Johnny obviously is a really tenured guy, and he knows exactly, what he needs in a truck. So to be able to come here and learn off of him, especially places, where I kind of maybe struggled last year, it's really helpful. And so hopefully I can get better prepared for my next truck start.
There you guys go. Myatt Snyder, one of those drivers making select truck starts this year, but a cool opportunity for him to travel over to NASCAR International, race some Euro races. We've seen drivers like Bobby Labonte also, who has been running in the Euro Series. So cool to see these drivers on American soils branch out and be part of NASCAR's international stuff.
All right, thank you, Hannah. Final 90 seconds or so of this opening Truck Series practice of the day, and a couple of Hail Marys being thrown in the final lap. Sheldon Creed, the rookie, to the top of the leaderboard at 181.561 miles per hour.
As drivers come in, they are now starting to climb out of the trucks, and I believe Woody Kane has caught up with another one of our young racers. Woody?
Yeah, Grant Enfinger leads the point standings right now, still looking for that first win, but Grant, very unusual track conditions here today. What did it feel like for you?
Not too good for us right now. We're just we're struggling a little bit with our Protect the Harvest Ford F-150. I don't have very much wheel into it, but I'm already sliding my front end. So it acts like it wants to be tight, but I don't really have enough steering wheel input in it for it to be tight. So just struggling with a few things right now.
Looks like some guys are starting to make some mock runs now. What do you anticipate the agenda for the second practice?
Yeah, we were really hoping to learn more from this first practice session. We felt like it'd be closer to race conditions, but we're at the lunch right now, so we're gonna be working hard in this second one.
There you go. Grant Enfinger really wants to do well here at Charlotte. It's been a bugaboo for him. They haven't been able to do as well as they thought the truck ran, so they're hoping to turn that around this weekend.
And, this practice session is now complete. As we look at the flag stand, the red and black flags are being displayed simultaneously, meaning this practice session is over. So a lot of frustration, actually, listening to the drivers talk. The common theme is get a grip, or how can we get a grip? Because even a veteran like Kyle Busch talked about the lack of it, and Woody talking to crew chiefs, and Hannah talking to drivers and crew chiefs, and listening to Grant there, seems like that's a big challenge that we've had in this first practice session.
So Sheldon Creed ends up on the top of the leaderboard at 181.561 miles per hour. Todd Gilliland ends up this practice second fast. Ben Rhodes third, Kyle Busch fourth, and Joe Nemechek fifth. Sixth went to Matt Crafton, Cody Rohrbaugh seventh, Brennan Poole eighth, Stewart Friesen ninth, and 10th was Anthony Alfredo.
Brett Moffitt 11th, Harrison Burton ends up 12th fastest. Trey Hutchins ends up 13th with Austin Hill 14th, Johnny Sauter 15th, 16th is Jesse Little, Ross Chastain is 17th, Tyler Dipple 18th, Tyler Ankrum 19th, and 20th, we just heard from him, is Grant Enfinger.
21st was Austin Wayne Self, Chad Finley 22nd, 23rd to Corey Roper, Natalie Decker 24th, 25th Gus Dean, Corbin Forrester 26th, 27th Timothy Peters, Angela Rook was 28th, 29th to Josh Balicki, Timmy Hill was 30th.
Spencer Boyd 31st, Jordan Anderson 32nd, Stephan Parsons 33rd, Jennifer Jo Cobb was 34th, and the 35th driver to get a couple of laps in, Josh Ray 35th fastest. So 50 minutes in, and kind of listening to it, I'm not sure what we've learned so far, but the clock has ran out on this practice session.
What we've learned is that there is still more to learn for a number
right.
of these Truck Series teams, and in a little less than 40 minutes, we'll be back on track for the second of two Gander Outdoors Truck Series practices scheduled for this morning here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. 10:35 to 11:25. Green flag conditions on the racetrack coming up this morning.
Well, we will see what adjustments they make as we have this downtime now and a chance to debrief it a little quiet. And it's going to be rare quiet here at the track today, but about 40 minutes of quiet time here now as these crews go to work and try to learn or apply what they learned in this first practice.
So we're done for now. One down, one to go for Woody Kane. Hannah Newhouse covering things down on pit road. For my partner Steve Post, I'm Dave Moody. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you back here at Charlotte Motor Speedway, 10:35 to 11:25 for our final Truck Series practice of the day.
Motor Racing Network's coverage of NASCAR practice has come to you from Charlotte Motor Speedway. Today's broadcast was brought to you under an exclusive radio license granted by NASCAR to the Motor Racing Network, solely for the private, non-commercial use of our listening audience. Any use of the description and accounts of this event without the express written consent of NASCAR and the Motor Racing Network is prohibited. This broadcast has been a production of the Motor Racing Network.